Ooh, we are live. All right. Well, thank you everybody for popping on the Next Step show today. I'm very excited to welcome Marshall Potts, singer-songwriter, local guy, amazing spiritual human being. Not my new best friend, but I was like, when I met this guy, I was like, I'm so connected right now. So it's so cool. I'm so happy that you're here today. I gave you a plethora of topics to talk about. So why don't we just dive in? Why don't you share with our listeners your background to where you just became this songwriter?
Well, you know, what's weird about the journey is that as children, we know who we're supposed to be, and then we
Mm.
go on a journey and we forget about it, and we get pulled off our path and we get sent in a bunch of different directions. So I think I've always been a songwriter. I started writing songs at 12, and I taught myself how to play guitar. My dad played guitar, he used to sing to us at the end of the bed, and my older brother played. He had one of those books around that taught you how to where to put your fingers for the
Yeah,
chords.
yeah.
So I used to learn some, I forget what it was. It was like a 70s songbook or something, and I used to learn some songs from that type thing. And I taught myself how to play. And then when I had a heartbreak at 12,
Oh God, one of
that's when I
those.
wrote my first song. And then, that's when I learned. And as I look back at it, I go, cool. That's really where the journey began, because you have to go through heartache in this reality. Now, I don't believe it should be part of our process, but in
Mm.
this reality, I think the heartache helps snap us out of our sleep, and then
I
we
like
can,
I like to call them like the catalyst for change for us. If we
yeah,
get to see it that way, that we can use it to better ourselves, right? Do you remember the song that you wrote at 12?
yeah. It's called Me and You,
Oh,
and
maybe
I
that's your
have,
next bestseller.
yeah, I have recorded like I threw it down again, and I added the final verse because it only had two verses and a chorus, a couple, chorus, and
Oh,
I added the final verse because it was incomplete. Because it was a song about my fiance now, who I've reconnected with, and she's the one who broke my heart. She's back in my life, and that's
was
all.
that Joe?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, see, I bet you other people didn't know that was her at 12.
Mm.
Now we
Yep.
get the juice. All right.
Full
Joe's gonna
circle,
come
right?
back at us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, the heartbreak, you're a musician, you're then looking at thinking your future's in music. You
Yeah.
decide to what now? You're gonna create bands? Are you joining bands? Are you just writing music?
As you're talking about, we're building up from when I was young type thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with the process, I started writing songs and nobody knew, you go to school, and I was one of those kids that like, don't notice me, I don't want to stand out. I just want to blend in and, don't put my hand up, and just get through the experience, because I found it very anti-freedom feeling, right? Which I think
Mm.
most of us did. And the social stuff was good, our friends and that, but the other stuff felt a little manipulated. But anyway, as I look back at it, but I didn't tell anyone. And then it came to me even as a young person. So then in school, I had someone reach out and, connected. I think I was 17 at that time, maybe 18. And he would have been 17 just before I left school, or it might have been just after I graduated. Anyway, so it might have been just after, yeah. So 18, no one knew in school I was in music. And then I had a friend who was like, I like playing bass. And we're like, oh, let's jam together. And then somebody else connected, and they were a little bit more professional, been in bands, and they got involved, and they encouraged me to sing a bit more. And I said, well, I got all these songs, and then we started a band called The Cause, because,
Oh.
we sat around as young people and said, well, we're at the, sitting around and probably having a beer too early, and for our age,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we're just saying, well, what do you want to get out of this? And when it came to me, I remember this. It was just weird, right? I don't remember everything. I have a horrible memory sometimes. Um, but there are certain points in my life, I call them crossroad moments.
Nice.
Those moments where what decision you make here now is going to affect everything.
Yeah.
And this one stuck in my head, and I said, well, I want to make a difference.
Mm.
and that has never changed. So everything I've ever written is about trying to help, trying to make a difference, trying to, even before I understood, I had the wisdom to understand what the world was a bit more about, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was writing songs about saving children, help, all these types of things. Shaking my faith.
Wow.
I had songs called "No More Time." We're running out of time. You know, um, we had, and I'm good actually. And I'll just throw this in now, just so you know.
Sure.
When I came back to the music later on in life, after I raised my kids and stuff, I came back to it. I decided I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to regress back into the very first starts of the music when I was doing the cause. And I want to end my last album is going to be called The Cause, and it's going to be the songs I wrote then redone. It'll be a lot better sounding. And then for me, it's in full circle. Then I got it all off my chest. Every song I've written, I feel like is a reason, and I
Yes.
have to get it out there. Now, not every song because there's too many. That would be probably, well, yeah, I'll get the bulk of them out there, but I might be a short an album or so. The problem is even now I'm writing a new album. Sorry, I'm spinning. I'm writing a new album to release this November or December.
That's excellent.
And I've got all these songs, I'm picking them up, I'm pulling them out, and I'm going, yeah, but I want to write new stuff too. So then I start writing new stuff, and so what happens is my intention is to get rid of not rid of, get these songs out there, get them recorded properly, put them out, and then I end up writing more. So it might be more albums than I thought, but it'll be the last album called The Cause. Anyway, so they encouraged me and made a big difference. I remember back then going and doing the first gigs and standing on stage and going like I couldn't face the audience. I'm that guy, right? I couldn't face the audience, so I stood
Wow.
facing the drummer, and I'd sing with the mic like that first couple of gigs, and then I was able to turn around and then I'd sing with my eyes shut, right? And then I was able to embrace it a bit more and then open my eyes. So it's been a real journey that way because it took me out of my shell.
And I think it's really important for other listeners, musicians, because I think, like, I'm not musically inclined, but I think everybody understands what it's like to stand on a stage or in front of people in a room. They know that feeling. And I think
Mhm.
that most people would assume that because you're a singer, it's just a natural thing that you would do. So it's nice that you're sharing that for younger artists or even individuals going, oh, I just assumed, right? And so let's
Mhm.
never assume the journey of somebody's path, right? So thanks for sharing
Exactly.
that.
And
Um,
I did learn that, sorry, early on because when I got into the music a bit more, and then we had, people, managers, and people involved a bit more when I was younger, I realized that you can't judge anybody because
uh,
when you might meet the head of a A&R department, and they will look like someone off the street, you know what I mean? So so the whole process, this whole musical thing has been totally part of the spiritual journey,
yeah,
and I've gone off my path and come back to it. But anyway, I just want to throw that in. We can't judge people. Don't judge
no,
them by what you think they look like. You don't know how the life they have lived.
no,
And
not
nine
at
out
all.
of ten, it probably makes yours look a little weak, and they may end up being on the street, but they had a great life. And
Yeah,
we don't judge people for stuff like that. We can't, because when we look at everybody, they're a mirror and reflection.
yeah,
Look at
exactly.
someone else and we judge them, you've just judged yourself.
Yep.
And if people can understand that we create these karmic little frequencies that bounce around in our reality,
Yeah.
that we have to that's where the whole forgiveness comes from, and this is where the motto of the band is, heal yourself, heal the world.
I love that.
Because everything is a reflection. So look, we don't have control of the world, but you do have control of your thoughts.
Absolutely. Yep.
Start there,
And
right?
your thoughts and your responses,
And your yeah,
all
your
your
response.
choices and decisions. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I that's why I think Marsh, and we're going to get into every song on the album The Storm. I'm just so impressed with the thoughtfulness, the humanness of it all, and really the cause of what you're bringing to the table. So when people listen to this interview, not only are they going to go, it's just, it's a musician. A lot of people can shrug, oh, there's another song.
Oh yeah, lots of
There's
us.
not many, and we kind of briefly touched on that. There's not many singers that are songwriters that get to sing their own songs and know word for word you made a decision and every intention behind those words, what that song was going to be put out into the world. So that's, I mean, for us on the next step here is becoming that conscious creator. And when I
Yeah.
first met you, I'm like, oh, this dude's got it. He is dialed in. And I think that's why we resonated so well, and with
Yeah.
my families too, is like, we know that we're here for a purpose, and there's a passion that we all have and share. And then as I watch you in your realm of passion of the music industry, and how you can intertwine humanity,
Mhm.
love, peace, and yet allow change to come like it should, is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to see. So thank you for what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
I wanted to put that out.
Thank
Um, so we've gone from your heartbreak with Joe.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see her again. And to your
Good bunny.
creating of certain bands, and this young man emerging and understanding his spirituality, and yet trying to, this duality of life, right? Your spirituality and living in this world for all of us is a process.
Mhm.
And then you become a father.
Yeah.
Now let's go from there now. Like, how does the music and fatherhood and all that
Yeah. It was difficult
intertwine?
because when I moved out at 18, I was one of those people that just had to get out of the house. I got to get started on my life, and it was just, I've always been a little OCD and I just went
Mm.
fast. My girlfriend at the time and I got pregnant and we had a baby. I was 19, just turned 20 when she was born, I believe. Um, so while I was doing two jobs, a band,
Mm.
trying to raise a baby in those early years, as young as we are, and we think we're adults, but we're not.
Yeah.
That's where the cause, came, and then it turned into a band called Saints and Poets. But um, yeah, it wasn't an easy journey. I grew up real fast through that process, right?
Yeah.
So that's when I had my first child and got divorced 3 years later. She was about three.
Mhm.
Um, in life, we're not supposed to have regrets, but it's good to go back and really look at it and understand the effects of your choices, right? So there
Mhm.
are times when your choices are crossroad choices, and then and you have to remember they affect other people in your life too, right? It's not just
Absolutely.
there's a reflection in the mirror, and then there's a ripple effect. So many ways, I wish I had been better served to stay and be a father to my first daughter a bit long. I was always a father to her. She was all I thought about. I didn't go out and date anybody. I understood that there was an issue and I tried to do something I thought was right.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying I didn't date anyone. I did have dates, but that wasn't why I did it. But yeah, so I was working full time. I was in a band called The Cause. We played a lot, and then I was a band called Saints and Poets. Did pretty good. And I raised my daughter. So when I had her like a week on, a week off, I
Oh, yeah.
she was my date. Like
Yeah.
she came. That was who I was hanging out with my daughter. So I did enjoy that part of it. Most of the time, that was really my focus on my spare time. And and like I say, I'm getting a little personal here, but I do wish I had been more available to her and a little less about what I strong-headed about what I there's a sacrifice in life, okay? I could have sacrificed a bit more than I did, but I did my best, and that's all anyone can do at the time.
And look at the maturity of where at in those early 20s. Really, like, what do we really know about life and who we are? So talk about forgiveness, right? Those are the moments you go, I I understood what I understood at those times and places in my life,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
now we can share. And yet the beautiful thing is you have a great relationship with your daughter.
Yeah.
like you're here, she's still, you guys are still intertwined, right? There's
Oh,
many
yeah.
that don't even have a relationship with their parents, and moving through things of that nature. So,
Yeah,
there
I
is
mean,
a
so
celebration
much,
there.
so much to me. The kids do, right? Because they're the
Yeah.
closest reflection to us that anyone can be. But they're the reason I did everything I did. I did try to do for them too, right? And I mean, that was always my passion. So, I raised my family, went to I was in a band, we toured, we did all this stuff, had a couple songs on a Molly Ringwald soundtrack, and
Yeah, yeah.
we did some things, and we won the Seafox Seeds and 1 year, and we were busy people. But at some point when I was touring and stuff, I missed the little kids so much. I had to come home because they were what was most important.
Hmm.
Because at that time it was like, well, this other stuff is so awesome, but I miss them too much, and so I try to pull back and get back into that way.
That's interesting that we were talking about that. I watched that Pink documentary, and that's exactly what she said is, I don't know who, it is the toughest thing to do, to be a rock star and
Yeah.
be a parent. And so she was having these kids on tour, and there's probably many people have seen that documentary. But I think of the thousands, if not millions, of other musicians out there that are trying to make the living, right? Trying, and you got to be on tour, and you have to be in,
Yeah.
producing and writing, and time for that. And that's not like a just nice 9 to 5 little job and you
Mm.
go do. So it is, I can see why many families do split. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
It's a lifestyle,
It
right?
is.
And
Yeah.
it's not one that's easy on anybody.
No. So
The
yeah.
highs are high, but there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, fatherhood and career, right? Like,
Yeah.
is there a balancing act? I don't know if it is a balancing act. I think you make the best choices you can. And it's going to be different for everybody. And yours was, I need to come home.
Yeah.
I need to be with my babies.
So, we kept writing songs and I kept doing stuff, and I had so many people when I decided to back off from music, because I believe the universe, God, when I say
Yeah.
universe, it's very much connected to God. God created the universe, so I always give everything to God, our creator. There's one single point in time that created everything, and I believe that's God. But that's my opinion. It's okay that I
Yeah.
have that one.
Yeah.
Um, but I, where was I going with that?
Oh, just with
I
you're coming
bounced.
home, and the
Oh yeah.
decision, people were looking at you for.
Yeah, yeah. So it was when I decided to really walk off the path. What happened was people showed up to keep dragging me back onto the path.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had a day that went by that didn't have that. As I'm older now and I look into have a bit more wisdom, and I can look back on the whole journey, and I can see the patterns. Then I realized, oh, okay, well, that's the universe nudging you, and it will. And the universe will nudge you and tell you what to do. You ignore it too long, guess what? You create that big tower moment. Okay, you create the moment where everything falls apart, because the universe is gentle. God is gentle. The universe is gentle. It doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to pull you back as easy as you can. The more you ignore your passion, your soul, the connection to the universe, to God, the more the universe starts to conspire to pull you back onto your path. And that could look like, why am I having so much trouble? Why? And that's when you realize you got to take responsibility for your choices. And once you take responsibility and you don't blame it on the universe or God, right?
Yeah.
And then you get sucked back into your path. You leave the space open to come back into it. But just be aware that if you're sitting every day waking up knowing in your heart that you're not doing what you should be doing right now, that you weren't brave enough to stand up to the bully in your life, that so on and so on, then expect a moment that's going to shake the foundation of what you're trying to create, because it comes to us all, right?
Yeah.
And then when that happens, that's why I call it the storm album.
Love it.
When that happens, understand that it feels like a freaking storm's coming to your life and tearing everything up, and a tornado ripped it all, and a hurricane came and washed it away. But understand that it's because there's something better. And then so you glom onto the positive of every negative thing that happens, if you can reprogram your brain. and look at it that way. So get excited, the world's falling apart around you. Just every time you wake up, be gratitude, 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 and then
Hmm.
go like, you know what? There's something better coming. This is thank you, God, and start to get in gratitude. Gratitude is a vibration. It's a mental vibration. Like get the vibration
Absolutely.
up, get the gratitude. And, like in the album with the storm, it's like in different songs like Heaven or Home, Take a Trip Inside references that experience. Like you have to look inside to change the inside, then change the outside. It doesn't work to change the outside.
No, it
And
doesn't.
and so many of us are, oh, on the inside it's on fire. On the outside, you come to someone's house and go, this is beautiful. So, wow, you're so, you got labels on everything. What's happening right now? But sometimes it's over control, and you understand that you're controlling your outside because the inside feels like you're out of control. Well, how do you fix that? Well, unfortunately, you got to go in and
God.
fix the inside.
Easier said than done. Maybe that's the next title. Easier said than done.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Oh,
it is. It's a long journey.
oh,
It takes years to get to your mess. Guess what? It takes years to get out of your mess. But it's like
at least, yeah,
half the
I
time.
just like at least the awareness, right? At least be aware now, because if you're
Yeah.
not aware, there's no way that you can change anything, right? If
Yeah.
you're of what's
Yeah, that's the
happening.
start. The thing is,
Yeah.
once you allow the awareness to come in and you snap out of your own false reality or your
Hmm. Ego.
your ego. It's yes, thank you. It's just
Yeah.
your ego. It's a decision between the mind and the heart all the time.
Yeah.
Like when we're in the studio, when anyone that's ever recorded is in the studio, any good producer, whatever, will go like, you're in your head.
Oh,
Get in your heart space. You're in your
yeah.
get into the soul space. Get into the place where you're not concerned about what someone thinks about your performance, right? You're just
Hmm.
concerned about performing, like and then you
Yeah.
talk. That's what I've done. And I write songs. And when you said, I smiled when you said earlier that, good songwriter, and I give it to the universe. I give it to God. I say
You just
like
channel it. You
I'm
channel it in.
channeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
totally.
That's the experience. Yeah.
I love that. And so that, I mean, that's where your songwriting comes from. And when I mentioned age and love, and kind of our topics that we wanted to talk about today, and you were like, the age of love, or what does that mean? And
Yeah.
how I was interpreting that is the age and love is your journey of
Yeah.
how love has changed in your mind and what it means to you now, because
Yeah.
now you're a grown man, right? We go from a young
Mhm.
boy of what we think love is. I think that for many people the
Yeah.
definition of love changes,
Yeah.
and who we love and what that looks like, that also changes.
Yeah.
And what does that look like for you?
Well, it looks like when I fell in love the first time at 11, or I think it was 11, with Joey, and then we dated when we were 12, and it looks the same. This is what I liked about it. It was because it was, it's an innocent love. It's like I walked by her the first day in school. I was like I think it was second day at school. Mitch and I and my twin brother come walking into school, and I walked by her desk, and I did say to my head, I wonder if there's a girlfriend who's sort of my girlfriend here that could be a girlfriend. You know? And I walked by this, and I just remember feeling like there she is, and it really never shook it after just being within. Walking down the aisle, she's sitting in her desk, just having that moment. See,
Wow.
people have to understand that when we're inside that space with each other, our hearts talk. It's just not verbal. There's other things going on. We only
Yeah.
see less than 1% of everything around us.
So much energy.
There's so
So
much
much.
energy. It's all
Yeah.
frequency and energy. And so that's why we can empower ourselves by changing our energy, and then it changes the experience we have outside of ourselves,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
well said, my friend. Yeah, that's so perfect. And yet, as I see you two now, right?
Mhm.
And you're saying, what has it changed? I think probably the way you are with each other has
Oh, no,
changed.
yeah, it has. It has. So back to
That,
your question, and how did love develop? Well, it started,
yeah.
and then and from there was all the other things. There was a lot of, I was very angry at her for years, right? And she is my muse. She's the source of that emotional space, that first
Mm,
crack in the heart that I go to. In fact, I write better when she's not around. I write better if she's down in the valley doing something else
yeah.
and we're apart. then I tap into that very easily, right? And it really has always been a source of the creative energy. So now, as I look back at it with the mature experience and understanding that, okay, this is the other thing: heal yourself, heal the world. It's about healing scars, right? And the
Yeah.
reason one of the biggest scars I had was this feeling of being left and all of that stuff, um, and then dealing with that, and then we became friends. We were friends at 18 again after we all graduated. She was the first person to hold my daughter.
Hmm.
She's in early home movies there at the house and stuff. My daughter knows her voice, and then there was a moment in time where I realized that, because I was good friends with the person she was with, and I realized I have to unplug, because this feels one-sided. And the reason I left the first marriage, if I'm going to get really personal, I probably shouldn't be, so I apologize.
No, there you can say anything on this show, buddy. It's all good.
It was because I went like, you know what, my heart's still pinging to this one person, and it's not fair
Yeah.
to you. And I said, there's someone out there that's that person for you, and I'm like in the way, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
how I felt about it. And that was the reason I felt strongly about just leaving. And I didn't just leave. I left my friend, that friendship. I left the connection because I didn't want to be in the way of choices that has made. See, love lets the other person do whatever they're going to do,
Yeah.
right? And even though I really wanted it to be with me, I had to understand that this isn't healthy, and there has to be separation. And I moved on from that, which was awesome.
That's
In
maturity, right? To see it that young, actually.
But
Could
then
have
to
been,
come, yeah,
yeah.
and then to reconnect with that original love when I left the door open and I
Mm.
started to create the space for things to change after my own spiritual journey, then the universe just filled in the blanks. And then it came back, and I was like, well, that's a bonus. I wonder
Yeah.
what cool songs I can write now,
Oh, look at that.
right? Because
Yeah.
love has returned, and I don't have to sing about being, alone and empty and scared.
Yeah. Yeah, and then yet I hear other songwriters talk about they've written the best songs when they're in heartache or it's been a depressed moment and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, when do you get to write really good songs when you're happy in love? Like, let's try
Yeah.
that,
Isn't
because
it?
that
Isn't it? Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
I said it's such a if that's what you think is your best songs and you want to have to be in that state, my goodness, your heart and mind, you just walk around. I felt like a broken shell. Like, I think that's what it would feel like.
Yeah.
So that's not how I'd want to live. So for musicians, I hope that they will come to a more of a healing experience that you have endured,
Yeah.
versus just constantly thinking that they have to be in a heartache or something to write a great song.
Thank you. That's what I was jumping in to say, because it is so true, and that's what I learned too. That you can build the songs. In fact, songs out of happiness and love are even more powerful than the
Mhm.
songs out of the other stuff. Although I think the emotional damage is a real catalyst to change, right?
Yeah.
So it does help you get started that way, but it is nice to be in a healthier space. And so now, like, even, if we talk about the spiritual journey, like musically, I've done this thing. I've got the Storm album. I've got these songs that I did with love and all of that in place, with a more mature
Mm.
experience with the whole, journey of life that we all share, right? Like everything I talk about will resonate to other people, I think. And then now I'm working backward in time, adding new, and then still working backward in time. And cool, man. If I can actually achieve it, what a healing process musically.
Oh,
To go
exactly.
from now to go back into time, and what I was like when I was 18, 16, 17, writing songs, and
Well,
then
I think that just leads us into the adversity and adaptability in
oh
life.
yeah,
Like, so
yeah,
not only did you have some adversity in your personal life,
oh yeah,
right? This whole world is gone through some major adversity as well. And so as a musician, you're able to pull a lot of resources out of things like that. But your own personal, we've had in BC here, the wildfires. And
yeah.
you unfortunately, or fortunately, however you'd like to look at that,
Hmm.
your home was affected on that. And I know that you guys had to come into Kamloops and
Yeah.
And I don't know if many people know this. Not only did you and Joe come in, you had two dogs with you, and one was pregnant
Yeah.
at the time, and then
Yeah.
had to have pups. And I was like, and where are these? And these are not little pocket dogs.
No.
You want to share a little bit about that? Because I was just blown away that that was the experience.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird, and I am really positive. And I thought, there's always the universe will come and test you and come and test again. How do you recover from these things? We're going through Mercury retrograde right now, and believe me, I'm sure people are feeling the tests that are coming their way because that happens every time that shows up. But at the time, it probably was Mercury retrograde. I should look it up. Um, when the fire started, we called it in. We're first people to see it and spotted it. I drove up there in the ATV and I went, "Oh my God, that is a fire!" And I came back. It was 40 degrees out. It was really hot, and we were down
Yeah.
at the creek all day.
And you have how much property too, Marsh?
Oh, it's 160 acres.
Yeah,
So,
this is
yeah,
not just a small little lot that you were worried about.
no, no, we had probably 80 acres of at least 80 acres of forest that burned
Yeah.
after the fact. But yeah, it was an interesting experience because I did it again. It's always for me. I'm like, was I overly confident? I felt this place was completely safe all the time, and
Mm,
so anytime life comes and these things happen, I really overly analyze. It's the OCD, so I start to go inside. That's what I taught myself. Analyze the experience, and I say, okay, what good can come out of it? So when you said it was a positive, yes, it was positive. It was a really good experience to have, but at the time, it didn't feel that good. And then you start to question your own. Am I on the right path? Why would? Okay, so there's that blame thing I talked about. Why would God make this happen? Why did the universe send a forest fire this way and burn down
right.
forests that we love? But it didn't burn the forest down. It was actually the backburn that did that. But that aside, it still happened because that happened, right?
Right.
Um,
So you and Joe have to evacuate now. Now the
yeah,
fire's
so we
sort
had
of
to
taken
evacuate.
over.
Yeah, yeah. So we were only here a day and a half after we called it in. They said, "Oh, I thought they'd put it out. It wasn't that big. I thought it was no problem." Um, I won't get into all the details of that, but it was a problem. And then they said, "You, if it candles over here on the north side, you got to get out." And so it did. And we had some
Mm.
great neighbors from the Indian reservation come up um, and help us out. Really good guys, and they helped pack our important things because I had some gear that musical gear I wanted to load up. It's pretty heavy, and they helped. And when they rushed us out, and boom, we were gone. We couldn't go out the regular way. I had to go out the back way just because our road was on fire and it was
Wow.
lines were down. You couldn't get out. So yeah, it was really weird. So at the time, I think we were starting to release. I forget was it this album or a single? I forget. Anyway, so I was doing interviews on that sort of thing, and then suddenly all my interviews turned into fire interviews.
Yeah.
So we were on CTV and Global and all these different things because of it. And I thought, this is really weird. What a weird reflection from the thing I'm trying to do. So it was a great experience. We had two big dogs in Motel 8 or something
Yeah.
that
What kind of dogs? Like they're they're just huge.
St. Bernard and Bernese mountain dog
Yeah.
combination, and the female's a St. Bernard. She's big.
Oh,
He's about 140 pounds. She's like probably 160, 155.
yeah. Hottest weather, long.
Super. Oh god.
Oh,
Oh
just
god. And you know
and
what? They don't.
pregnant.
They don't poop small. So you had to take them out every day. We had this new routine where we're having to take these dogs in the city and then find a place to go let them poop and pick up the poop. And yeah, she's
Oh,
pregnant and breathing hard. And then we finally leave the motel and got to stay at my brother's place in Pinnetan Lake, and that's where we had the puppies. So we had
oh,
puppies. We were doing an interview every other day probably, and it was just a weird experience. But
oh, it was bizarre. Bizarre.
bizarre. It was bizarre,
Yeah.
and I always look at life and go like, well, okay, everything was upended that way. We slowed down the release of the album. We had to postpone it.
Yeah. And tour
And
too. You were supposed to be touring, I
oh
think, at
yeah,
that time,
yeah, we had a
right?
bunch
Like,
of gig shows. Oh, when the pandemic happened, we were all set up to have a great year and a new single coming out called "That's How It Starts."
yeah.
And boom, it hit the month I sent it out. So hey, is the universe telling me something?
It's not starting.
Yeah, but it's adversity, and
Yes.
and every time you fight for yourself, I think there's a scorecard somewhere,
Uh,
a little check mark, and it just helps you out in the long journey. Because guess what? There's no end.
no.
There's a
No, but
success.
I think the key, I think especially watching you guys go through that was
Yeah.
how you adapted to the situations, right?
Mm,
And I think it was such a great lesson for many that were in that the going through the fires. My heart, I mean, every
yeah.
time you turned around, Williams Lake was like the whole town,
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
went down through Little, I mean, the whole town of Lillooet
Oh my
completely
God.
gone.
Yeah.
My heart was just like, oh my gosh, what do these people do?
Yeah.
So being able to adapt to a situation, and they're still recovering. There's people that probably aren't even in their homes or have a home yet
Oh yeah.
to go back to. You guys, fortunately, were able to come back and
Yep.
slowly start to rebuild. And
Yes.
so right now, I haven't yet personally seen it, but I can't wait to go up there and see it. You are now sitting in your studio, which you didn't have before, being
No.
able to go. I don't even know, is it finished yet or?
Yeah, it's finished. Yeah.
Okay, yay.
A little messy, but it's finished.
Oh, it's your creative space, right? So I'm
Yeah.
thrilled for you guys that way. Which we knew you would rebuild, but I think it's the spirit of being able to adapt to such a global, like there was fires just everywhere. It just seemed like the whole world was on fire somewhere. There was always seeming to be crisis, whether it was the coronavirus coming in or
Mhm.
whatever. Like it just was like everybody's just kept getting lambasted with something.
Yeah.
So adversity, adaptability. If we're not adapting in this world, we are going to die. It's I heard it's not the survival of the fittest anymore. It's how you adapt to your
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are pretty amazing to hear your story, and thank you for sharing that. I'm happy that you guys are up there now that you're there and rebuilding around your property,
Yeah.
and now that hopefully this pandemic is on its way out. How is the writing and how is the storm coming along now? Oh, you know what, I'm going to back up. There was a project you mentioned, it was the Heal the Earth project. Do you want to share a little bit about what that was about?
Yeah. I think it was in 2020.
Okay, yeah, so was it just before the pen or
Yeah.
was it during?
You know what? I don't know. I have a bad memory, but I think it was during type thing. I think it was during. That's yeah, it was during. That's why we had there
You
was
assume?
the spoons. We had Gowan. We had um, geez, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting names. A bunch of people on there that some Canadian, some American
Okay.
artists that were all part of it. But it was Earth Day, right? And we were trying to do something with Heal the Earth, and we put a show together. I was a big part of it. We put the show together to just kind of encourage people. Like the Spoons did one that was about kind of had the whole pandemic stuff inside of it. They had a bunch of stars on there, like Knopfler. There was a bunch of people that were on. It was on that video, and so it was just really about bringing attention to the Earth Day thing, the whole conscious being aware of our environment, and
Mm,
really, at the time we were all just trying to encourage each other because what else did we have? Like we felt like,
yeah.
oh, shut down for 2 weeks or 2 years.
Yeah.
So
And who knew, right?
and
Who
who
knew
knew,
that?
right? Like everyone was prepared for 2 weeks. Well, some people knew because some people were like, they shut you down for 2 weeks. You're going to be shut down as long as they can keep it.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic. But in this case, yeah, that's what happened. So Heal the Earth was really cool, and to be part of it, and have that's how it starts on it, and with all these other artists that I really looked up to, because I remember Gowan, and I remembered who sings with Styx now. He's their lead singer, and why
Oh,
can't I
you're going a bit blurry. Oh, there
Oh,
you
can you
go.
hear me?
No,
Well,
your camera was going a bit blurry
oh
there.
no, no doubt, because I'm looking away. You can't see my eyes. um, and Glass Tiger. That's the name
Oh,
I'm thinking of. So
yes.
Glass Tiger was, and that was cool because I thought that was neat to be part of the
So
of.
the purpose and intention of that,
Yeah.
everybody was it more of an environmental or was it more of a combination with environmental, spiritual connectiveness?
Yeah, I mean, on me it was spiritual, and other artists were spiritual. Others were environmental, and others were the pandemic was their source of inspiration for what they wanted to share with
Okay.
people on that day. Because I really think that most of the time we evolve through art, and art
Mm,
is there to kind of reflect, music and dance and everything else, reflect the universal consciousness of people. So the state
nice.
that we're all in at the time. And so there was a mix of things through it, but it was about more awareness of pollution from my side of it than anything about the earth and how we treat it. And that falls on the feet of all of us, but it does fall on the feet of the corporations that have
Yes.
control over that than we do.
Nice. And what a blessing to be part of that and
Yeah.
help produce it. I think that was part of your contribution as well to that, was it not? Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of the video editing for that.
Oh, fabulous. And I will put a link for others that were interested in that to view that as well for you, so they can see that. Well, let's now, the soul in music. I mean, since I've been little, and I think for anybody, when you listen to music, it elicits feelings, emotions, and that's the beauty about art. You could look at a painting, it could elicit emotion. And why I have this hanging here is my daughter did this when she was 10 with a group of kids for a
Wow.
party. And
Oh,
I just love the energy and what it brings in
yeah.
because it's part of her. So when we listen to music, there's a connectiveness on a heart level. And so when I listen to your music too, and I know that there's a story, but because I know you, and that's always makes it more fantastic when you know the artist, um, that you either resonate with it or it brings up it's an inspiration for you to do whatever it might be, what might be the next step for them.
Hmm.
So for you, I'd like to walk through well, one of the things in your bio was it says about your music's about moving beyond your past, taking back your power, which I love, embracing the moment and living in the here and now. I
Yeah.
just like that's a beautiful thing. And I think if people, when they listen to your music, I hope that they do get and understand that. Be interesting to see other people's perspective of it. It's sort of like when you listen to a song and you start to sing and you're like, you have all the words all wrong, but you think you've got them all right and you're just jiving. Somebody goes, those aren't the words. And you're like, well, it sounds good. But people will also interpret your song differently.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's not what I meant. But if that works for you, great.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of go through your songs on the storm. You've got 10 songs on there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw out a song and see if you can give us a quick whether it was an inspiration to writing that song or what the true meaning of that song was.
Okay.
Are you ready? It's like a little game.
All right.
Okay. The album The Storm, it was actually created 20, or did you just you produced it in 2022? Maybe you had songs you had written for years and then you just decided to put those on the album?
A lot of these songs were newer songs.
Okay.
When I talk about the journey, these were new songs, and now I want to work back through my catalog type thing. But yeah, they're all about the spiritual journey. Like I'm trying to share the experience I've had that I think is positive for other people. If I can say, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is what happened to me. I had a lot of storms through my life, but this is what I got out of it, and here's where I ended up because I could overcome my fear, and then I could
Okay.
embrace the positive, right? I could take a negative and make a positive. That's what the storm is. The storm comes in as a negative, but it leaves as a positive. In its wake, there's something
So
that
your
comes.
songs on this album are not a chronological order. It's just
No,
yeah, okay. So the first song on there is Free and Easy.
yeah.
I
Well,
love it. So
it's chronological in the sense that when I sat down and I wanted to put out the layout of the how the songs appear, there
okay.
was a reason why I did every one of them.
I knew it. So
Mhm.
that's why, yeah. I was like, ah, okay. So well, let's start with the Free and Easy. What was the inspiration and what exactly is that meaning for you?
Yeah, well, the nucleus of that song was an older one, and then I finished it basically through this experience. But free and easy, why I put it first was because I wanted something that would get. It's like a book. It's like the first part of a book or the prologue. And then part of maybe the first chapter, it gives you an idea of where you're going to end up at the end of the album. It
Um,
says everything's going to be all right. Even
mm,
though you and I are going through this moment, this storm, this thing that's happening, it didn't say the storm in it, but it reflects the same idea when I say, it was you and me when times got strange in a world of love and so much pain. And when the
mm,
lights went down, we were lost and found. You were next to me. It was meant to be, right? And then free and easy explains how the awakening process, so the start of all of this, the spiritual journey where you go from being awake and just going through the emotions and then suddenly looking deeper into
Mm,
everything, and then taking on responsibility, which is tough for us, right? You know
yes.
what? I did that, like that thing I thought that guy did to me, I did that to me.
Mhm.
And you start to realize that what we allow other people to do to you is your choice, right? When you're a victim, you cannot stay in a victimhood status, because if you're a victim, then you expect more victimhood stuff. So the inside feels victimized. Guess what? Oh my
Mm,
God, this is happening now. This is happening. I'm a victim. I'm a
so
victim.
good.
So you have to flip it over, and you have to really take responsibility. It's your quickest way out. Start forgiving all those people you feel of trespassed against you. And then you will be forgiven of the trespasses you've done against others. It's a reflection in a mirror. That's life. So Free and Easy was the first song to say, hey, it's going to be all right. It's his first one to just say, like, here's kind of what this whole album's about, but it's positive in the end, although it's
Yes.
called The Storm.
I love that. Okay, so that leads us right into the storm. So, was there a different nucleus or inspiration for that?
No, oh, well, for
Okay.
the song itself, no.
Okay.
No, Free and Easy, no. It was like, let's share a bottle and some of your time. Sometimes we have to loosen up to get to our heart space, because the mind is
Yeah.
so convoluted. Like, there's so many thoughts in the head. And so when that's why they say, someone drinks a lot or whatever when they're drunk, sometimes they speak the truth. So it's more the real person
Truth
than
is in the wine, I think is what the term is, isn't it? Could be other things too, I'm not sure, but that's what
yeah.
I've heard.
So that's in there, but yeah.
The storm. So when I heard that too, the title itself for me was it a personal storm or was it a global storm when I first had heard it? So I think for you, like you're saying right now, is all that introspective storm inside of us, and
Mhm.
taking the responsibility is just those songs tied. So
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying that. I like that. The third song, Hearts in the Sky. Love this one too. You want to tell a little bit about that? I think is that one connected to your mom?
Yeah, it's connected to everything's connected to your experience overall too. Although I don't, I feel like the lessons we learned come out for me. I just kind of tune in and it comes out, and it filters through my experience. So I infect it a little bit, but I try to keep away from it. I feel like, if as a songwriter, if I can create a really clean mirror with what I'm doing, in other words, I take ego outside of the experience. I have
Mhm.
no desires of money or applause or all those things, and I
Mhm.
just can be very honest with what I'm doing, then it'll be a clean reflection to the listener that hears it, and then I think I'm doing my job as a singer songwriter. And with that song, it came very fast. I wrote it in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
um, I was up here adding on to the cabin at the time. It was like -20 outside, and my daughter was up here with me at the time. It was nice to have that connection again, and we spent a winter together, or most of the winter. And she was helping me build the bathroom on the back of the cabin. So we'd go out, and we could only work for 10 minutes because your hands would freeze, right? And then you'd have come back in the cabin around the wood stove and just warm up. And then while we're warming up, I started the guitar part. And then we go out and we work. And I come back, and I sang the first chord or verse, and then I came out, and then I sang. It came like that. Like, I don't think I
Wow.
edited these lyrics. I think they just went boop, 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 boop. And it was an interesting song that way. They're my favorite songs, and it is one of my favorites, is when they come so fast that I feel like I was just
Channeling.
channeling it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't my ego, and my own experience wasn't trying to get in the way too much. But yeah, it is Hearts in the Sky. It's all our ancestors,
Mm.
all the people and their souls up there that we look at every day and look down at
Oh,
us.
I love
Like,
that.
hey guys, stay strong. And I thank the ancestors all the time, and I thank them for their stories, and I
Yeah.
thank them for breaking the bad patterns, so that when I came here, I didn't have to deal with as much. And I think that's
Is
our
that
job.
that's another show right there,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's
Oh,
why we're here. That's
yeah.
why we're here. Break patterns,
Yeah.
and everything's a soul group. So don't, you have people in your life, good or bad. Understand that you're all there to help each other learn a lesson of some kind, and then take the positive out of that experience, and then forgive them because they didn't want to play the bad guy or the bad girl or whatever it is. But
Mm.
in the end, we have to just go thanks, because if you hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have learned this lesson, which wouldn't have got me to this place, which is a healthier place than I was at.
Yeah. It's so convoluted. And yet that's our job, to keep sifting and sorting and adapting and finding out, yeah, what we're made of, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully that those choices will lead us to more spiritual awakenings for sure.
And it will end at some point. I don't think those things will come and like the waves will quiet down and everything will become serene. But expect the waves as you change and try to get out of the bad habits, the bad things that are around you.
Yeah.
But embrace it, because when you have that happen, you're on the right track. It's a weird. Everything's a paradox.
Yeah.
It's a paradoxical situation. You
Yeah.
don't want trauma, but trauma is what created the trauma you're experiencing. So go back inside and figure out your trauma and clean it up, and then it'll start to, it might just ebb and flow like ripples in a thing, but it'll eventually go away. Don't go like, hey, I meditated and I really dealt with that childhood experience, and now it still came up. It's going to be an echo.
Trigger.
It's going to happen
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8 more times. But understand, every time you do it and deal with it and you recognize, that's awareness. Understand, oh, that's when it's happening. And understanding, oh, I'm triggered because when I was young this happened to me, so now I'm
That's all it
projecting
is.
my own
Mhm.
trauma onto you. So now you're mirroring my reflection, my experience, and now I'm mirroring your experience, and now we're just at loggerheads. We have to learn how to move beyond that, and I
Yeah. And
think
recognize that in each other. Yeah. And then be
that's
able
the
to
next phase of
communicate. Right?
humanity. That's the
Yeah.
next. That's where we're going, and it's to a place where we, this whole thing, namaste. Well, I recognize basically the God in you and the God in me. Well, it's the same God.
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
that's the one thing, right? We're all we're
Mhm.
all a piece of each other, and if we can start to realize that, and we all have empathy. Look, 99% of us are good people. That's one thing
Yes.
I've learned through the experience. It's only 1% that run around making the rest of us feel like we're a bag of poop.
Yeah.
And we have to start standing in our own strength, and we have to stand up to our bullies, which is what's happening right now. We're being bullied universally, worldwide, and we're going to have to stand together, and we have to stop creating boxes. We have to stop creating walls between each other, and we have to break them down and just look at each other like human beings, and just recognize, and that's what this album's about too, just recognize that we're all going through a similar journey, and let's help each other. Let's not try to destroy each other, because my hurting you hurts me. Heal yourself, heal the world, right? It's
So
all a
does that now the next song, The Fall?
Yeah, the fall is like a call to action, which is
Yeah.
basically, um, it just talks about how I envision the world and how I wish people could see it, and that we can be stronger together when we all move together in one massive movement. It's unstoppable. So if we embrace love, like I say, there's two choices. There's love or
Yeah.
fear. Which one are you going to embrace? There are two frequencies,
Nice.
two radio stations. Which one are you going to tune into, right? You want to go into fear state? Well, guess what? You got hate, you got war, you got all this other stuff under it. You want to go into a love state? Well, then you've got anywhere but up to go, right? So now
Right.
you've got happiness, you've got empathy, you've got kindness, you've got all the things that utopia, basically. You've got people going, sharing. We're sharing energy. We're not charging people for energy. We're not charging people for their breath. We're not charging people to be alive. We have societies and systems that are created that aren't about death and mayhem and war. It's about the other side. And that's the experience, I believe, collectively, we're all going through right now. And we're all going through or making that choice. And right now, guys, if you're hearing this and you're watching this is your moment. Recognize when you're in a fear state and recognize when you're in a love state.
Yeah.
Choose love over fear, because that's that inside choice, and it's a crossroad moment every time you do it, and it will
Well,
create
in
a
order to
better
do
life.
that,
Yeah.
interjecting there, because in order to do that, make that choice, because fear is powerful and
Mm.
so is love. But when you're in a high state of fear,
Oh,
man, you have to be really good at going, okay, I know where I'm feeling right now. And
yeah.
to make that shift it's not easy. It really isn't. So for listeners out there, I understand that.
Mm.
But it has to be done in order to live a completely different life, or you'll be always in a state of fear, and every choice that you make is out of that and not of love. So
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up. That is another spiritual journey for people. Is just that alone is
Yeah.
how are you going to live, right?
Yeah.
Now, is it love or fear? I love that. So that just then goes to let it go.
Let
I
it
love
go.
how it just
Let it go.
you let it go.
Well, let it
So
go describes the process, you know. If you don't learn to let it go, then doors don't open.
yeah,
No, you've got to learn to let go of the people that hurt you, let go of the experiences you had that hurt you, let go of the moment your parents said something to you when you were 6 and made you feel really bad and you've held on to it for years. Let
yeah,
it all go because they're just old kids, you know. I say our souls don't age, our bodies age. You know, we do get more wisdom through the experience, but we're not
yeah.
my parents, you look at them like they know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Stop putting people on freaking pedestals and understand that it
Yeah.
goes with your family too.
It's their own
Um,
perception of what they think is going on, right? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah, but so let
crazy.
it go is let go of the trauma, let
Yeah.
go of the things, the baggage, and
Or
sometimes
or
like,
or controlling, trying to control
oh,
others
wait,
to
that
fit into your life.
that's a
They're
good
not.
that's funny. That's funny you say that because we were watching a meme today, and there was a guy on the ocean with a mop, and he was trying to
Oh
mop
yeah,
up the ocean. Did you see that?
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that
Really.
was so cool because that's exactly what it's like. That's the control thing, and as soon as you surrender to the fact you understand you're not in control, but you are responsible. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a paradox. Everything's a paradox. It's like, how can you be not in control but also responsible? Well, because you're responsible for how you react to the things you're out of that are not in your control, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you start to, and I'm working on all the time. I don't have the answers. This whole experience to me is just like that. Every day is a challenge. Every
Yeah.
day I wake up, I start with a gratitude list, and I try to think of the things I'm, grateful for, all of that sort of
Mm.
thing. So I can put myself in, and then I set an intention. I say, okay, today I'm going to, live in a loving space, and I'm going to
Perfect.
try to help others when I speak. My words are powerful, and I have to be careful of what I say to others. And as parents, we don't always know that. And then you're stressed from work or whatever. You yell at your kid. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have maybe done that, but you did anyway. But guess what? That's the scar now they have to deal with, right? And you want me to get more esoteric? There's a generational trauma. Okay, so
Hmm.
you can be born, never experience the trauma that you're dealing with because it was passed on through the DNA, through epigenetics. Look it up because it's true. It's a science. It's not science. And when we begin to, that's why you don't judge a person because you don't know what they inherited, you don't know what they've been through, and you don't know how they got to where they are. But
And
they may
yet
have,
we talk about that those patterns can be
yeah,
eliminated,
yes,
and
you
you can
can.
now start a new generational of behaviors and patterns and thinking and feeling and all of that. So
Yeah.
these type of shows like this and our conversations
Hmm.
have got to allow people the space to go, oh, I can make a difference in my own life and generations past me now. So that was huge. If there's going to be any aha moments, it's
Yeah.
like right now. Like people, I hope they hear that, and
Yeah. I
you've
hope
got
so.
power.
That's what the album's about. That's what this whole thing's about. Like, heal yourself, heal the world. Just
Yeah.
understand what your position in the world is. And it's not to save the world as much as we want to. See,
No.
we're all full of empathy and we do want that. We all want that. And my mom used to say to me, she said, Marshall, get off the cross. Somebody needs the wood. And as I got older, I realized what it meant because
Wow.
I was out trying to save the world. I want to make a difference. I want to make It's not my job to save the world. It's my job to heal myself so that when I
Mhm.
interact with the world, I am helping to save the world. But I
Yes.
can't do it on my own. Every one
Mhm.
of us has to do it together, right?
Yeah. Oh,
It's a
get off the
tiny pebble.
cross.
Somebody needs the wood.
I gotta write that down. Get off the cross. Somebody needs the wood. Oh God. Okay. Off the cross. Okay, that's awesome. So that leads us to heaven or home.
Yeah.
So I took that as heaven as maybe a literal heaven, and I was like, no, not really. I think it's just how we're living, or is
Yeah.
home feel like it should just feel like heaven? Are you creating that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because last night I was going through some of my hard drives looking for someone else's backed up thing I was asked to find. And I found a thing that said, "What up, heart?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"What's that?" Okay, "What up, heart?" It's one of my music programs. It didn't have a symbol or anything on it. And I brought it up and I had this song that the idea of a song on there, and then I had the process of me writing Heaven or Home.
Oh, wow.
And it's in about a 10-minute thing. And it's where I start and I tell myself, because I do this all the time because I have a horrible memory, and I go, okay, here are the chords, da, 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 and I have the inspiration, and I listened to it because I was fascinated to listen to the process. I thought it would be cool to maybe put that out there because you can hear me write it from beginning to end in
Oh, that'd be
about 10
cool.
minutes, about 10 minutes, where the nucleus of the song and everything just came together,
That's cool.
and the way the stuff came together. But Heaven or Home is really the spiritual journey, and it really reflects exactly the whole idea between the spirit of living in, it could be called heaven or hell, really, if you want. Because home, or this experience that we're all currently going through, can feel like hell. am i
Yeah,
am I right? Like,
very.
I'm pretty sure all of us have been traumatized from this experience. None of us came here and went like, "Oh, popped out," and we're just like, "Oh, everything's great, ice
Yeah.
creams and and
Rainbows.
unicorns and rainbows and lollipops the rest of your life." And let's
Yeah.
clarify: lollipops are poisonous. Ice cream's not good for you, but unicorns are cool. Uh, but yeah, it's about the spiritual journey. So take the trip inside. I talk about that. I talk
Okay.
about the meditation I did to try to get to where I am, and I meditated a lot because that was a big part of it. You have
Mhm.
to create space to heal.
Mhm. Yes.
When you meditate, you're creating the space where the voice isn't in charge anymore. And it's like, I call it like defragging your hard drive. So you're going
Love
back
it.
and you're able to recreate the original, you know, as close as possible
Yeah.
to
You're
where
restoring it all,
you're
right?
restoring the child inside. You're healing the child
Mhm.
inside and restoring the way the whole biological operating system works, type thing.
Yeah. I love that. Which then number 8 song is Never Gets Old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
that was probably the most personal one in the sense that I
okay.
stepped outside of, it's still more soul, it's soul related, and because my mom said to me, Marsh, I think she was maybe 50 something at the time. She said, "Yeah, Marsh, I'm still 16 years old inside." And so
Hmm.
I held on to these certain things that have come,
Yeah.
and never gets old. Our souls never age. They don't
Yeah.
age. There's no age to a soul. We're all the same age. And that's the other thing to realize in that respect, A child can say something very, very
Right.
profound.
Yeah. I mean, we call it an old soul. Isn't that funny?
That's when we say it's an old soul.
Yeah.
Because we recognize it. We do recognize it. And I believe we applause is based on our fact that we recognize the person that was able to break their own fear enough to do something they loved, and we go, "Good for you. I wish I could do that." Sometimes that's the
Yes.
case. We always celebrate each other. That's what life is. It's supposed to be a celebration of life. It shouldn't feel so dark and dismal, and oh my God, we're on the edge of World War
Hmm.
III and everyone panic again. No,
Yeah.
we have to embrace the other side of this and understand the reality is very much in our control if we can heal ourselves enough to see it for what it really is.
Perfect. And number 9, The Change.
Yeah.
So is that a physical, spiritual combination?
The Change is the next single in the UK coming out on May 22nd.
Okay.
And it is, yeah, it's just saying a lot of the same things. It's just really coming out and going like, feel okay to share your
Mm.
scars. Feel okay to share your experiences, because that's also how we get rid of them, by sharing them with one another, right? And then because we spend a life, guys, guess what? We all die alone. We
Yeah.
spend a life alone. We're with other people, but we're still in your head. We're all alone, right? And then when we can realize that, hey, share those things, you think it's embarrassing, you think you can't do it, but once you start doing, it's very healing for yourself, and then it creates healing for others, because they go, "Oh, I feel like that too." And then we can start to bounce off each other in a positive manner, instead of being this fake, "I'm perfect, I've got everything under control," because it's all a facade, like
Yeah.
life life is a bunch of energy moving around, and none of us have control of the
No.
experience, but we do have control of how we think inside, that negative voice that shows up. We have control of these things, right?
I love that. And your last one, thank you, God. Well, I think that
Yeah.
pretty much is self-explanatory, but
Yeah.
why that title? And is it just because of the song you had it in there and you wanted to end it this way?
I changed the title at the very last minute before
Ah,
we went to after we went to mastering, before we made the album and stuff and released it. It was called Thank You. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be right to the point. Thank you, God. Thank you, Creator. Thank you, Universe. Thank you to the thing that connects us
mm,
all.
yeah,
I'm grateful for the songs. I'm grateful for the experience that created the songs. I'm grateful, and it ties into, like, okay, everything I write has a esoteric high up meaning and a personal, potential personal to all of us meaning.
mm-hmm,
In this song, if I go personal, it's that search for the person you love. Um,
nice.
it also recognizes that you've always been loved, and that even though you didn't think it. So that's the God part of it, right? So you
Yeah,
are loved. Like, you know, guys, I know you don't feel loved all the time, but you are loved. You are loved by the creator that created you. And that is 100% true. That's why
awesome.
you're here. Because one thing I discovered through life is that I believe that the love and fear thing is true. I believe that you embrace the frequency of love, and you can really count on it, because it always wins, because it is the love is the creation of everything. Okay, it's in a creative experience. Life is created through love. You know, death is created through fear. Like, understand, it's duality. There's two things going on at any point, and we're allowed to make a choice. You know, every day I say, I choose love. I choose love. I do weird things. I walk through a door, I go, I choose love, in my head.
Yeah,
Every day I move, every day I say something, I have reprogrammed my head to take a negative and make it a positive.
yeah.
I have to make a choice every day. Before I go to bed, I say the same things, right?
And
I
and that's the effort. Becoming conscious
Yeah,
creators
yeah,
is a decision to
yeah,
make changes in our lives. So replacing those thoughts with
yeah,
another thought, right? And then living and looking and expecting that to be happening in your lives is the other part of that.
yeah,
So on our conscious creators power up groups and our conscious living Facebook groups,
yeah,
if you're on those groups, then that's what you're searching for now, and you're like, this is how I need to live my life and not be constricted and fearful anymore. I can stand in amongst the community, which can be a global community, and know that there's so many like-minded people here for you. So again, that's why I'm thanking Marshall to come on today and share that. The this album, like, because of the past 2.5 years not being able to tour, what's the next step for you here? And create, is there another album coming, or do you need to tour? Is there things set up?
well, we're going to be in, well, hopefully, please God, nothing else happens and we can't go, but we're going to be in Scotland at the end of June, and
Okay.
we'll do some shows there. And then I'm going to come back. We've got the ranch to deal with. I'm going to
Yeah.
come back and deal with um, writing the rest of this album, basically, and releasing it.
The what's the new album called?
Can we pause for a sec? You're gonna have to edit this out. I gotta
Hold
go
on.
pee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back to we didn't mention that you were a donor. I
Okay.
wanted to kind of share that. That was another journey in itself.
Yeah. I'm blaming all my pee break on the kidney thing, which is but it's true. But like what I found is, like, I when I have to pee, for sure, I have to pee. You know, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't process I don't process the water as fast, and so it builds up slowly, and I don't pee half as often. But when it happens, I gotta go. But yeah, I donated a kidney. Yeah.
And how long ago was that?
Well, it was one big part of the start of the spiritual journey, because, you know, in my ego state, I thought I could save the world. I thought I could. This is where I came up with heal yourself, heal the world, because I began to understand physically what that meant. And I donated a kidney to my father-in-law at the time. He was dying,
Mm.
and we were a perfect match. So, meant to be. But it spun me into my own kidney problems, and I ended up having to literally heal myself. I went through doctors and I went through the whole process, and they were giving me drugs for the high blood pressure I suddenly had. They told me I'm a kidney patient. I can't eat meat anymore, or only about this much, an ounce at a time. So I went from being a healthy person to saving a kidney patient to not have to deal with that, to myself now dealing with that.
Yeah.
Um, and Really, it was meditation, it was positive thinking, and it was all those things. And then I was already into organics, organic farmer. And then I turned. I tried to go as healthy as I could in terms of food. I tried to take responsibility of my actions and not blaming the doctors or anybody else, because that's where I went initially. And then that's when I learned a lot of what I'm talking about now. So it was a catalyst to
Wow.
that change.
Heal. Well, thanks for sharing that. That was like time span. How long was that from donating to sort of feeling like you've healed?
It was about, it's a good question, because I'm into numbers too. So let me do the math. Is that right? Let me think. Yeah, 7 years. So everything's a 7 year cycle, guys.
Really?
7 years, yeah,
I
seven
thought it
years.
was more than that. Oh, wow.
That was about
Okay.
7 years from my donation to when I considered I was awake,
Okay. Okay.
and then the process after that. So that's when I began, like, basically, yeah, about 7 years.
Yeah. So again, right, like anybody going through illness, surgeries, recovery, just it's not an overnighter. Like things do take a process and some time to heal. So that's the other part of this is letting listeners know that the healing is a journey in itself. It's
Yeah.
not an automatic, oh, I'm just great today. Like you think, oh, I feel good today. And like something else will come up and it'll trigger you,
Oh yeah.
or you have an injury, right, you have an illness, and it just takes some time and there's always things to learn along the way, right? So
Yeah, life is hills and valleys, right?
yeah.
Like that's what I say. It's good right now. Oh my God, I can go. Oh, it's good. It just goes up and down. And you know what? It's a reflection. Everything's a mirror and reflection. So a sound waves is like this, up and down, and so is your life. Everything's frequency. It's all the same
Yeah.
thing. The whole experience is. So you just got to dial into the frequency you want to be a part of, type thing. You want to help the world? Don't be a martyr. That was that comment that my mom said. Don't be a martyr, because the martyr, yes, be a good person, which looks like a martyr, but
Mm.
don't destroy yourself in the process, because you're not good for anybody.
Yeah, you don't need any more doormats either, right? Like,
You can't
no,
be
I
a
do all
doormat.
this.
You got to stand up for yourself. In fact, that's what your soul is asking you to do all the time.
Yeah,
And you ignore it, life just gets a little worse.
it gets on you. So the next step for the Marshall Pots
Yeah.
and so end of June, we're in Scotland, and
Scotland, and then we're back. We don't have anything else planned. I mean, other things are in the works type thing, but I don't know what they might be. We haven't been out of, really focused on it. I felt really tired through the winter after we were doing our
oh yeah,
got back from Montreal, and then we had some stuff to do here. And then the snow hit. It was minus 38 or something. And
good
then,
Canadian weather, eh?
yeah, I just sort of took the winter off in some ways. And I think of it as, self-love, taking that moment to sort of heal. But then you got to be careful, because procrastination can be also, it's a sin, right? And you can get into a bad habit with
Yeah,
procrastination. You've got to, and then when it's happening, because you're going to wake up feeling like, I'm not really doing enough. I'm not, or whatever it is, right? And that's when you turn back from your head and you go back to the soul and go, hey, soul,
nice.
if I was just the soul, what would I be accomplishing today? What would you be doing today? And then pretend you're that, and then do that.
Oh, I love that. And that's really the question when we talked about it. Your question, okay, so what am I going to do? For me, I said this is why the name of this show is called The Next Step. I would constantly say, okay, God, now, like, what is the next step in whatever situation it is? And
Yeah.
that question can probably be repeated 10 times a day. Okay, I got it. Now what? Now what? Right? Like, we can goal set, we can do all this, but in this moment, right?
Yeah.
Because it leaves us to opportunities that we don't even know yet, right? Of making connections with people. And that's the fun part about life, and expecting that, well, you're going to call them miracles, synchronicities, whatever. I just go, I love that. So I'm so happy that you came on today and we shared a lot.
Yeah,
I
a
think there's
lot
a
more than
lot.
I thought I would share. And then
I
I know
thank
you.
you for that. What's that?
And then I know you, so it's a little easier.
Yes. I like to get in there and really understand what's in somebody's heart and mind that they want to share with that, because that's where people connect. I mean, we
Yeah,
could just talk about, hey, you're a songwriter, but when we can hit the soul level, that's pretty amazing.
yeah, and that again, back to why people appreciate other people doing certain things, because you have to understand when they get to that level, they probably have been through a bunch of shit just to achieve what they're doing, right?
Totally.
Sometimes it really is like that. I mean, and so never feel bad. Never look at anyone. Don't put anyone on a pedestal. Like this is
Right.
your life, the same as anybody else's life. No one is any different.
Yeah.
And then we have to just get back to that. And it's an equal playing field for everyone on earth. And support each other. Because if you're not here to lift even a stranger, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
If you find, okay, it's very easy, if you're confused about life and the experience that you're having and the information you're receiving from the television or anything else, weigh it. Is this
Mhm.
fear or is this love? Did this lift me up in this moment or did it drag me down? Right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well then if it's lifting you, turn it off. Don't go in that direction, right? If the
Hmm.
things around you aren't bolstering you and lifting you up, and this can get into relationships.
Yeah.
If
Environments,
yeah,
whatever.
or work or whatever, right?
Mhm.
If you're
Yeah.
made to feel bad about yourself, understand that's not why you were put here, right?
Yeah.
And then start to fight back for yourself. Start to do it. No, don't go crazy and hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not about that at all. It's about love. Again, if your response is, I'm going to hurt someone, well, then you missed the point.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really about lifting everyone around you, even the person that hurt you. And
Yeah.
and you
That's
don't have to go up to them and say, "I think you're wonderful." No, this is an inside conversation. That
mm,
experience can be settled just on your own. You don't have to go through the process of like A&A going in to apologize to everyone you hurt necessarily. You've just got to forgive the people that hurt you first. Number one,
nice. Yeah.
you've got to deal with the. I used to sit. Sorry to babble on. I used to sit as a and think about when I started to wake up and I turned my attention from the outside into the inside. I would think about everything that hurt me. I'd go through. I'd search for it. As a kid, I was 2 years, grade two. I think I peed my pants in the sandbox, and I remember trying to cover it up with sand and then going back on the bus and feeling really embarrassed about it. Well, that was a scar, so I had to go and sit and think about that. And then I consoled the former version of myself. Hey guys,
Going back.
it's timey-wimey because time is nonlinear. So you can do this. You can console yourself in a different timeline necessarily, and you never know. It might actually be working, right? But at the very least, in your moment, it helps. And that's the point that we live in the moment. You don't live in the future. If you live in the future, you're going to be in stress mode, worry mode. If
Always.
you're living in the past, you're in regret. All the things that plagued you, all the traumas that you had, the things you wish you had said, the things you wish you had done better. You got to stay in the moment, stay in the moment, and then revisit those things, heal them, breathe through them. You can sit just as simple as just
Mm,
remembering it and just
yeah.
allowing it to come, breathe through it. And guess what? It leaves the cells because cells have memory, and it leaves your body, it leaves your experience. And then it might take 8 times of that every time it shows up, but just keep doing it. Just
Yeah.
chip away at it. This life it's
Oh,
about
it's so short. Like it may feel long, but in a
sure.
blink of an eye, a moment in 10 years is done. Like you're just
Yeah. And then
what just
all
happened?
you've got in the end is your consciousness, right? And I
Yeah.
believe that we carry on. I don't think that any of us ever really die. And then when we realize that, hey,
Love
you know,
that.
there's more to life than this life. We see less than 1% of everything, and I think this life represents less than 1% of everything.
Oh, Marsh, that was,
Okay.
I like that. We're going to end right there.
Okay.
Life, 1% of life. Namaste. Namaste. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. And we look forward to having people watch this, and if you need to respond, reach out to Marsh. All the links will be in the comments, and Marsh will be happy to connect with anybody out there that's interested in listening to his music. I will also have the link for the Spotify. You can listen to his albums on there. It's beautiful. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful day on this, and we'll have you on another day after your new album's done. How's that?
Awesome. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take care.
Thanks, Lianna.